I do, though, Chiney, want to get back to Kyrie Irving because Nets general manager Sean Marks, he spoke about the team's decision to bring him back over the weekend. So take a listen.
Several months ago, we made a decision that was based around what was best for the team. What was best for the team at that point was continuity. And I think we all see that continuity right now over the course of the last week, and whatever the future looks like, may be out of the window for a while, and we've got to navigate that as best we can. We're sitting here faced with a roster that has been decimated over the course of the last several days, and I'm forced to make decisions. When you have an opportunity to add a player like this at a juncture like this when dealing with unforeseen circumstances, this is the best decision for this team at this juncture right now, that what we're dealing with.
Has Kyrie given you any indication now that he's back in the fold that maybe he might consider getting vaccinated down the road?
I have not talked to Kyrie about vaccination status. I don't think that's been appropriate right now. And when he gets back here, I'm sure he'll have conversations, whether it was myself and Steve or his players and so forth. But I want to get him back in the fold, and we'll navigate those conversations then.
Well, I think those conversations are always appropriate to navigate. But Ramona, bringing back Kyrie Irving as a part-time player, is that the right call for the Nets?
I think right now this was an imperative for them just because of the minutes that James Harden and Kevin Durant were playing. And I think this really came from the other players within the organization saying, we need him. Just flat out need him. And if you look at their schedule coming up, I don't know how helpful he's going to be to them because, as you know, he was placed into the health and safety protocols almost immediately. And so he has to return 5 consecutive negative tests, but now that he's in the protocols. But look at their schedule coming up. I mean, they have a lot of home games where if he doesn't play on this upcoming 3-game road trip that they have, then he won't be available to them till pretty much the middle of January.
Well, and Sean Marks did say that this was a collaborative decision. There is the schedule that we're looking at. So you see they play at Portland, at LA, at Clippers, but then they have quite a handful of home games, Chiney.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I know a lot of people will see like, oh, how is this going to work out immediately? I think this is a long game decision, knowing that this is something that the league is going to have to balance for the next few months. Trying to find some form of stability with rosters while navigating the situation we're in currently. So I actually circled after Christmas 2 home games until January 15th. But then after that, late January, 11 of 14 games on the road. Right. And when we talked about Kyrie Irving earlier in the season, we're like, well, he could be available for this circumstance. I think things are so dire right now for roster construction that you have to look. That's probably our better chance of maintaining our position, because at the end of the day, they're in the winning business, right? They're #1 in the East. And if you are having guys like Kevin Durant take extended minutes, you don't want to put everyone else at risk. Now, I know risk is a question when it comes to Kyrie, but when you're thinking about teams, it absolutely, Ramona, you're right. It comes to the players. At some point, you're like, can we actually have him? Like, it's going to hurt us at this point more than we even expected.
Well, and Woj mentioned it. It's about winning a championship. That's the #1 thing driving. This is the business of basketball. But at the same time, you have to recognize Sean Marks, he did say when he was asked whether or not this is going to be something that's going to be going on all season long, or whether or not when they get players back, they're going to revert back to saying, okay, Kyrie, thank you for your service, not so much. To me, that seems like once you've squeezed the toothpaste out of the tube, it's going to be very hard to put back in. But Sean Marks didn't commit to have him for the rest of the season, at least not yet. You sort of have to read the tea leaves there. It is important to note that Joe Tsai has been a fierce advocate for the vaccine and for getting vaccinated. And so not only is this a shift basketball-wise that makes a ton of sense, by the way. They had an all-star on the bench that they can then bring in. How many teams that are decimated by COVID right now have that opportunity? That makes sense. But the shift in sort of the messaging there, that's something that I am curious to see continue, because we know what works here, and that's masking, testing, and vaccines. And after Christmas, the league is going to require testing again.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.